welcome to your carrier update presented by Power Fleet. So happy Thursday, everybody. Hopefully everybody's have a great week so far. Thursday's a big day for freight, so let's dive right into it and see where our outbound tender rejection index is for the country. 7.52, still slightly horizontal, but down about 8 basis points day over day. We were about 7.6 yesterday. Today, 7.52%. Not the decline that we're expecting in January, but it's still holding on a little bit. But it's still, pretty well under last year's levels. So we haven't necessarily surpassed early 2019 yet in terms of capacity overall. But let's look at where things are tight and where things are loose in the country right now. The weighted rejection index behind me. So anything in dark blue means that we are having an increasing amount of weighted tender rejection. So a weighted rejection index is a combination of market share and tender rejection weekly change. So anything in dark blue means that you are having an increasing amount of tender rejections on the weighted side. So it's going to be at weighted versus the rest of the country. So what that means is, if you look down here in the scale, anything from negative 6.63 to positive 3.94. Now, having looked at this for several weeks now, anything in that negative 5 to 5 range means that we're relatively flat. So when you're looking at these dark blues and dark reds, don't get too excited, because we are in a horizontal market, as you saw with the tender rejection index for the United States. What that means is that we are basically in a flat or moderating conditions. So do not expect to see large amounts of volatility throughout the country. Just know that in these darker blue and darker red areas, these are going to be your best chances for, number one, finding freight, or where you need to get a little bit more aggressive to win freight during that period of time. So up here around the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania market, which is one of the larger markets in the United States, you see that it is super tall. That's because there's a lot of volume in the Harrisburg market, one of the biggest in the country, in the top 5 generally. But it's also dark red. That means that the weighted rejection index has come down significantly over the last week. Now, has it dropped off the cliff? No, it has not, because it can only be as far down as negative 6.63. Again, not significant. It's going to be a relatively flat market, so don't expect to just drop your pants there to win freight, but do expect that you will need to be a little bit more aggressive to win freight and find loads out of this market versus this time last week. So where are some of these markets that we can expect to actually win a little bit more freight if we do keep our rates a little bit higher? That's going to be the Indianapolis market, Charlotte down here. Up here in the Pacific Northwest is going to be, a little bit more, not Seattle and Portland. These are not the greatest markets, but up here, and I'm going to dive into those here in a minute, just a little bit, up here in Northern California too. So the West Coast showing a little bit more stable conditions. If you're looking to find freight and you are operating in these areas, you should have a little bit better chance at winning loads if you keep your rates flat, and also are heading in there looking for loads week over week. So pulling up, this is our weighted rejection index list. So we've got Fargo, North Dakota, Pendleton, Oregon, Stockton, California, Salt Lake City, Twin Falls, a lot of West Coast, Pacific Northwest markets up here. And I pulled up a few of those over here. Now I've got Pendleton, Oregon, Twin Falls, Idaho, all showing increasing rejection rates day over day. You see these spikes over here. You've got 49%, and I've got the reefer outbound tender rejection rates pulled up, because this is a very reefer heavy part of the country. So potatoes and onions definitely flowing out of this sector of the country right now. So if you're a reefer carrier, make sure that you're checking out the Pacific Northwest right now. The next up we have, this will be the Stockton, California. So you remember, it was dark blue on the map. Doesn't mean the market's blowing up, but I've pulled up the significant areas of tender rejection. So the mid-haul lanes specifically, 18.45%. So these are going to be loads moving between about 250 to 450 miles. That does include the Los Angeles market. So if you are operating in this heavy backhaul area, make sure that you're looking for any southbound freight out of Stockton right now, because LA is one of the biggest destination points for that market. Now, I wanted to check on the Midwest, because we do have a big system coming through this weekend that's going to drop inches of snow. Again, not that unusual for this time of year, not unusual for this part of the country, but some of the rejection rates are a little bit elevated out of this market. So the Minneapolis market, for instance, if you look at this huge trend line going up for tender rejection rates, 19.75%, and that's after being way down around 5% in August. So this time of year, you definitely need to check any of the weather conditions in this part of the country, especially since they're seeing significant amounts of snow over the next little bit. And that'll do it for today's Carrier Update.
The comprehensive logistics offerings from PowerFleet cover in-cab ELD, fleet management, trailer tracking, cargo monitoring, and tracking other assets such as chassis and intermodal containers. Power up your operations with PowerFleet.